And sometimes it's not even about proving people wrong. It's about proving yourself wrong. What just happened? Like we were just playing around. Negativity now thrives way more than something that's really positive.
Thank you for coming to Zed Flashback. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
I want to start here. Before we get into, because you're the perfect person to talk about like confidence and leadership. So those are the things that I think we'll get into after a while. But before we get there, I'm always curious about people's processes. And I know you're a retiree, allegedly. But when you write songs, because everyone's got a different process, do you find that, like with me, I find that sometimes I get inspiration and then I'll kind of like store ideas in my head, ready for the session. And here's what might also interest you. The late Daddy Zemus, he used to carry a little book the time that I knew him around 94. And so when he'd be inspired, he'd write like a sentence or a bar or whatever it is. And then later on when he's in studio, he'll pick up the book and start finding things that are connected to what he's about to write there and then. So before we get into serious stuff, I just wanted to know, like, what is your process? I want to unlock maybe from the various songs that you've done over the years.
So obviously, like from the Dazima's times to now, things have changed like drastically. Maybe he used to write because he didn't have a recorder or he couldn't record on his phone or stuff like that. Obviously, if he was around now, his process would be different. But also, I'd like to think there's different processes for different songs or projects. There are songs, like, for example, if I'm going to do a song about AIDS for UNICEF, then it's something that I should really think about. Okay, what demographic am I shining? What type of messaging? What's safe for them to feel like, this guy, you know what I mean? But also, there are two types of songs mainly that I work on. There are songs where it's more about what you say, not how you say it. So for that type of song, I really need to write before I figure out the melodies and so on and so forth. But there are songs where it's more about how you're saying it and not necessarily what you're saying. It's more about the vibe, the groove. So with that type of song, obviously, you just want to get the best possible beat that you can get and then write to the beat. And also sometimes what would happen is I'd write some stuff and then I would struggle to get that stuff onto the beat. You know? So I don't write.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just go into the studio, listen to Apa, think of 4 lines, rap it, think of the next 4 lines. Because sometimes, even when I'm in the studio and I'm writing to a beat, by the time you're finishing your 16-bar verse, you can't figure out how the first bounce was, the first 4 bars, how the bounce was. And if you just mess up that bounce, it's not the same. Also, like, I realized, like, it's easier for me to catch the vibe later when recording if I recorded stuff, because I'm saying it the same way that I thought it. But if I just write it down, for me to remember the actual vibe and the tone, and because it needs to be like the pacing, the tempo, everything is connected. Once you mess up one or you can't remember how that was going, it's a completely different song.
So here's a connected question. Do you, when you're putting your songs together, do it with intentionality, because some of them will be performed on stage? So are you doing it knowing how the performance will be or crowd response? Are those things crossing your mind when you're writing, or is that secondary?
Both. Again, it depends on the project. There are songs that like, oh snap, I need a summer joint, I need a song for December, you know. So for that, you are checking out what people are listening to, what would be nice, what would get people going, and so on and so forth. You're already picturing a crowd moving to that song. And then there are just songs that are for me. You know what I mean? It's just for me. I don't care if whoever likes it or not. It's
Yeah.
really just for me. And then there are songs in the middle where, and obviously you've heard a million people say this, that good artists make music that people want to hear, but great artists make music that people need to hear.
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah,
there are
yeah.
times when, you just get inspired and you feel like, you know what, it would be amazing if there was a song like this, if I made a song like this. Yeah.
So I've got Kenny Mumba here. Obviously the way that we conduct this is the spotlight is on you. So for anybody watching right now, director Kenny Mumba is here, and I'm also gonna, like, once in a while check if you've got a question, Kenny.
Okay.
But I wanted to talk about confidence because in June last year, UBA, the bank, they asked me to give them a talk during what they call the man cave. So they have a virtual link up with their staff, the male staff, and then they get an inspirational guy. In this case, it was me, to talk to them. And so one of the questions that I asked, and I had a slide on the screen, but before I put the slide on, I asked them, like, who, in your opinion, is like a confident man's man kind of guy? So the slide I had was of you.
Really?
But I hadn't revealed it yet. And then, in terms of them giving me feedback, your name pops up. So that's just, like laying the foundation about the perception regarding you and confidence. And I think confidence is a big part of who you are as MK Macky too, and all these things. A young you was a young Mark. When you think about the times growing up, was that always a feature in your life, or is it something that you had to kind of discover and implement?
I think there are times when I have felt not so confident. But I guess the more, and sometimes it's not even about proving people wrong, it's about proving yourself wrong. The more you prove yourself wrong or right, the more that confidence grows in you. First of all, in most situations when I was beginning, I didn't have a lot to lose if I fucked it up. It's not like there was too much on the line. But also, the first time that I ever, because I think a lot of, like, especially our generation, a lot of our music or our art form was influenced by people who were already doing amazing things. So it's almost like you worship back. You know what I mean? And just his confidence kind of is so infectious that you also start feeling. And we used to write like Tupac lyrics in school books and rap and so somehow you tap into that person's confidence. I remember the first time I ever wrote like my own rhyme was, and I guess this is how everything all began, is at the end of every term, every school term would have like a variety show on the closing day. So they'll do like Tuma rehearsals like 2 weeks before for the people will be dancing or rapping or whatever.
Yeah.
So I went to the school hall just to check out what's going on. So I found this kid who was rapping. He even had a lip. What do you call it?
Like a lisp?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But everybody was going crazy. I was like, but guys, that's weak. Like, no, you're just hating. So I can't even remember, but we made some sort of stupid bet that next day I was going to come back, and if I did better, then I don't know what stupid bet we made. So I went home and wrote something. I already knew like 20, 30 hip-hop songs, so I guess it wasn't that hard to put it together.
Yeah.
Came back the next day, rapped that same verse. The rest is history. And I guess with some of these purpose-driven careers, is once you just bump into it, it's you know this is it. It just feels like this is where I should be.
Yeah.
Or at least it felt like that for me. Just that, I don't even know if it was 3 minutes on stage holding the microphone. I knew this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So basically, that's how I started, like writing my own music. And every time that I stepped on stage, from that day, obviously, I was nervous as.
Yeah. You still get nervous though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's important. I'll explain. So first of all, like the moment I stepped on stage and performed, and everybody liked it, obviously my confidence in my craft really grew. And years later, obviously, if you have a wild performance where we're like, your confidence levels obviously drop.
Yeah.
It's just like that. But I think it was very important for me to really, and I don't know what happened or what led to it, but I had so much confidence or belief in myself that it was just infectious. Everyone around me could see that either we had a pena or a mukadi. You know what I mean? Because what we're doing was different. It's like White Celeb. Have you heard White Celeb's music? Yeah, obviously, if a foreigner comes in and tells us this is one of the biggest artists and they listen to his music, like, what is it? But if you see the way people are responding and the way he's influencing culture, like the music culture in Zambia, then you know there's something here. And I guess that's what happened with me. Like, the more I put out music, the more I saw people respond, the more my confidence grew. I was talking about basically anxiety and feeling nervous before I go on stage. What's important for me is it makes me realize that I actually care about this so much that I can't just go out there like, okay, it's time for me to go. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I really care about how people are going to feel after my performance. Because, you know, you're only as good as your last performance.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to nail it every time. Because sometimes, especially now, people's attention span, like I remember, if you can't know, if you just give a shitty performance, it's like, we watched him, he was lousy.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm always trying and make sure like my performance is perfect, or at least give like the best possible performance. 3/4 of the time, would even, if we're not really sure of the crowd or the audience we're getting, would even make the list of the songs we're going to perform on the actual at the actual venue. Once we have a feel of course, you know how it is. Sometimes very mature corporate crowd, you can't be like, we got the punk and you know. Then your music has to be, and sometimes it's a very young audience that they can't relate to anything you did 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So you need to sing this to my ones that you've done at Pakat. Yeah, but I guess I care about it so much that it makes me nervous.
There's a thing I read, and Kenny, you I'm sure you want to ask something, but there's a thing I read some years ago regarding Chico Twala. I think you know Chico from South Africa.
Yeah.
So, you know, he was very big in the 80s. People knew him for his own music. You know, he had like I Need Some Money and whatnot, and all these other songs. Which used to even play on ZNBC. And the interview I read was that he was in Italy about to perform to a crowd, but he used to get anxiety before performing. And after that performance from the interview, he said no more. And that was his last performance, like, you know, decades ago.
He said he was not going to perform again.
Yeah, he just stopped performing because the anxiety or the nervousness was too much. It reached a tipping point where he didn't want to be feeling that feeling again.
Yeah.
And so he stopped performing, but I mean, he's still one of the richest people because he's the one who wrote Volindela for Brenda Fassie. He's still a writer, he's still a mogul behind the scenes. And so he's still been able to be successful. But performing, unless he started again, he took a long break based on that. So it's just
so what I didn't mention about like my anxiety on stage is the moment I step on stage and say something in the microphone, everything goes away.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I've experienced that in radio as well. As soon as you open the mic, but with me, so with me, it's this. When I was younger, like at school, and I was in class, I was class clown, making jokes. but behind the scenes I was being bullied. Behind the scenes I was like miserable. But because of that thing where I'm able to create a persona, which is Mr. Fun, that same thing translated later on in life when I went on radio. I could have like a terrible day, turmoil in my life. Switch on the mic, yo. I'm that guy, So
I hear you. And
I think
so
that's
yesterday,
artistry.
me and the boys had a conversation about, I won't mention which artist, but about why it's important to knock off. You know what I mean? Like, obviously the best music is made when you're authentic and when you're being honest and as vulnerable as possible. If you're not afraid to just show people who you are. But also, this is a business. And because it's a business, you have to treat it as such. You have to study your audience. Look at your toes. Study the audience and then see where you fit in. And the more you put out music, the more you realize like what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, where you thrive and where you're just useless. So you minimize on your weaknesses and you maximize on your strengths. And the more you put out music, the more you really customize and make this character. And chances, 90% of the time is a little far away from who you are really when the mic is off and everything. That's what I mean when I say you should be able to knock off at some point.
Yeah.
Yes, this is it. And at some point, you just become the person that you are. I think I only know like maybe 3 or 4 Zambian artists who are exactly the way they are. Like when you just play the song, just Dandy, Daddy So, and maybe General Kanene. Everyone else, when you talk to them, you even like, Pilato is actually smart. You know what I mean? Like But imagine like the early music before you actually heard Pilato speak.
Yeah.
Imagine the idea that the image that came to mind.
Yeah.
But at some point, alenuka. And I think it's important, even just for your own sanity. Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, coming up as a director, where you create content and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think it taught me a lot about myself. What do you think about some of the things you've gone through as an artist, and just as you, what have they taught you about yourself? Like your most vulnerable moments. Like how did they kind of elevate the person you are today?
First of all, I think I was really, really reckless when I was younger, even with my music. If you look at my catalog, most of the really unfiltered gangster or street stuff is back in the days. And once you just pack a venue full of a lot of kids who are singing along to your music word for word, ngola tonto kanya fe wino. Once I realize that, oh shit, this is how much influence And usually, when writing most of this music, it's always, you don't spend an hour on it. You just listen to the beat and the next day when the president or the former president sing along, you're like, what just happened? Like we were just playing around. But anyway, at some point you realize how impactful your music is, or how impactful you are to young people. People are looking up to you, and you become a little more intentional with it. Yeah, so it starts with you just trying to create more responsible music. Responsible. So my music has really changed me or groomed me in some way, because in 2009 I was already touring country. I was already performing all over the place. I already had kids who were really freaking out and fanning out and all that stuff. And I just knew I had like an image to uphold, and that image couldn't be like even now, like I still get people who walk up to me and tell me like, Muntuan DJ Chilu Lemba candid. I didn't win a salary on set. She went out for Balaka school. And I don't know if that's supposed to be like meant to make me feel good, but it's depressing. You know what I mean? Like it's like I want your music to be like I've done like a number of songs, and when people ask me like, okay, so which one is your favorite song, or which one do you think is, I think Nangwanchinge is like one of my favorite songs, not even because I liked the song, but because a lot of people have like a lot of my testimony. Like, yo, that song put me through, like it helped me get through a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? So it's things like that constantly remind you that, hey, this is bigger than you. Also, I know a lot of rappers who are really, really gifted, but they just rap like us. I'm a rapper and I'm Brooklyn, and you know what I mean? Like they love what they do and they wouldn't change for anything. And doing any commercial stuff or they look at it like selling out. You know what I mean? And I look at them and I'm like, bro, but if God gave you a gift, it's so selfish of you to just think of you, to just make music for you and your 5 friends. You know what I mean? You want to make music that would touch the masses. And the only way to do that is to study the market, see what they're... And I have evolved a million times, but even when you listen to a Amaka Kwalesa song that I mix with a Catholic choir, to Mamara Baker, some Kalindula song, to all these like gospel Jones, 7 different types of genres. But in all these songs, you could still hear Mark 2 in there. And that's, for me, it was important because 1, it's consistent, 2, it's really honest. It's who I am that I'm bringing to the song every time. And 2, all these songs, I know the target audience and I know how it's going to impact. You know what I mean? It's important to remain authentic and original, but at some point there should be a balance. You should look at it as a business, and also should always try and, okay, how is my music going to impact people? How am I going to make sure it touches not just me and my friends, but how am I being of service to my community or the world? Yeah. So my music has really evolved to that.
Wanted to find out from you now, like, speaking of like Komboka and being selfish and all those kind of things, you are kind of, a lot of people like, ghetto president, all those things, titles, kind of just speak to the fact that you are a man of the people. And it almost feels sometimes that the people have shares in you, like they own you. Meaning that you as a thinker, you as a visionary and those things, I'm assuming that you need time to unplug so that you can, be impactful with your message, with your vision, with your purpose. But are you allowed that? Because even, somebody like, I'm nowhere near as in the public eye as you. But I find it difficult to, take 3 steps in the shopping mall without somebody, so even if I'm having a bad day, I'm reminded, oh, flip, now I have to smile because, How are you unplugging and insulating yourself so that you have time for you,
I think it's important to have a safe space. It's important to have friends that you can be as honest with or as vulnerable as possible with. Just some friends that you can be you too. It's almost inevitable every time you attain a certain level of success that you kind of attract a lot of yes men. People who worship you and tell you what you want to hear. But there should be a deliberate realization of you surrounding yourself with people who can be honest with you. Also, like, a lot of things are about perception. at least for me. In fact, even just what I'm saying here now today is basically just my experiences. I never went to school for this shit. It's not gospel truth. It's just like what I've learned through experiences. So my perspective on all that stuff, and I'm never always like perfect, because like a few weeks ago, a month ago, 2 months ago, I pushed some kid on stage, and
I wasn't going to ask about that, but while you're there,
yeah, it became a huge thing.
Yeah.
So sometimes it gets to you.
Yeah.
But I always try and remind myself of how blessed I am to even have people who are like that, who want to take a picture with you, or just want to have a random conversation with you, or tell you some story you don't want to hear about. Because it could be that you are passing and people see you and just like, so I'm a musician, and just don't care. You don't want to be that artist. Yeah, so you should always, I try by all means to always remind myself of how blessed I am to be in that position. And of course, realizing that negativity now thrives way more than something that's really positive. You could take 100 pictures in a day. The moment you just say no to one person, that person first of all, I'm good, did it tell you, China vlog with daddy. when I said no. You know what I mean? So it's draining, but the moment you just leave your house, you know, I knew what I signed up for. I belong to the people. The privacy is very limited, and try and be as accommodating as possible.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, but if you don't want, stay in your house. How do you go to the mall and you don't want people to
Nah, true, man. I've got one more question. You've got a question.
One after yours.
Okay, so here's my last one, then Kenny will seal it off. I was listening to a Snoop Dogg interview, and he was saying if you're in the business, you're lucky to have a career 3 years long. You're lucky to have a career 3 years long. You've had one decades long. I mean, I remember I watched you perform in Joburg like long ago. I can't remember what year that was. That's the first time I saw you. You blew up the stage, and you've just had a career where each year it's a different level. It's like a video game. You're unlocking levels with each year. Next level unlocked. But with all these years and all these learnings, what I'm finding now when I kind of from afar look at your journey is that you seem to be taking up a leadership role more seriously. There's, people don't know there are WhatsApp groups for musicians, and you're up in this, giving game or talking opportunities or, plugging conversations. And you're doing that kind of thing. So how are you viewing leadership as in part of your purpose as at now?
First of all, and again, everything is about perspective. And sometimes from where you stand, if you're seeing a 6, me, I'm seeing a 9 here. Both of us are right or are not wrong. So there are things that I know or that I've observed in the industry, and to me it's gospel truth. There's something that's been tried and proven, and it works. And to a new kid who they look at me like, this one is a dinosaur. You know what I mean? And they would even prove me wrong. You know what I mean? Like, for example, I look at the music industry like a moving train. Like, if you study where it is today, and then you want to use that information next week, a few years ago, I used to laugh at people on TikTok like, these are clowns. I used to think it was just for comedians and dancers. But now, I'm struggling trying to stay afloat on TikTok, because that's the biggest marketing tool for music. So I believe no matter how, music is always evolving. And from where I stand, the things that I know, and I believe I can pass down that same knowledge so that we don't start from square one. Like if the next kid could at least know what I know. Because I think it took me years or decades to even know what I know. Like, so I wouldn't want a situation where like the next kid also spends years trying to learn the same thing. But I should be open to a new perspective, because I don't think you should ever be so wise that you can't learn. You know what I mean? I've always tried to be a student of the game and always reminded myself that no one is bigger than the industry. But at some point, I realized that, you know what? My glory days are gone. Like, all this time, it's almost like just me reinventing myself and tapping into new sound and so on and so is what has even sustained me. But in our industry, in 5 minutes of fame. And when it's gone, it's gone. And sometimes people really become depressed and bitter if they don't see it coming. When they just notice that, nari pwai. You should always see it creeping. And it's easier to evolve into something that's sustainable or something that, like I always give this example of Jay-Z, for example. He's still like a respected rapper, but people don't even put him in rapper conversations. They're just like, oh, there's Jay-Z here. And then there's, Nava. He deliberately did that. You know, he set himself apart. So every time that I've tried to reinvent myself is basically trying to create or reinvent myself into something that's more natural, that doesn't feel forced. Everything that I have or that I get even now is stuff that I earn. It's not like a Legends Pass. You know, a Legends Pass, you know, like, no, that one is an OG, it's okay, you can let him perform. No, when I'm performing, it's because I need to perform, you know what I mean? I've earned that spot. Every single day I try and wake up and earn my place in the industry. But also, lastly, sorry, I have no short answers. Lastly, time. Dandy, for example, Dandy is the best example for this. Dandy was Dandy 10 years before he blew up. He was doing exactly what he was doing when he blew up. The only difference is when he blew up, it was his moment. Like he had done the work. He was just waiting for that kind of opportunity. I always say when preparation meets opportunity, just magic happens. People call it luck. So at that particular point, even if it's the dandy feeder, if you're the fly cafe, and sometimes what happens is people move on from that also. It becomes someone else's time. And a few years back, I realized that, you know what? I'm not small-minded. You know, the reason why I haven't even done bigger things is because Zambian music has got some sort of ceiling. Yeah. Everything that here, my guy here can go to a studio, record a song, and take it to a radio station. They'll play it. Like there's no regulation. It's black market. You know what I mean? But when you now want to compete on a continental level, then you realize there needs to be some sort of structure. You can't just be like, so this is my single, this is my... No, like people have publishers, they have there's a whole team that makes that thing work. The only way we can compete against Diamond and Davidos and all these people is when we put our house in order. We need to put our house in order before we even start. And how are you trying to make money off Nigerians and South Africans when you can't make money here? Here we have artists who are as big as whoever, and the name and the money they make doesn't tally. You're too popular to be making, you're making a decent living, but for the amount of popularity, you should be driving a Lamborghini. You know what I mean? But because we haven't put our house in order, my local champions. So at some point anyway, I realized that oh, so maybe I won't be the one that will bring home a Grammy. But if I can just start up something that will make the industry favorable or will give it more what's the word? Basically help create the same structure that I'm talking about, so that your chances of you actually going out there and doing amazing things are better. Because at some point you can be as gifted as and have amazing music but at some point talent fe itapitida somewhere apanomba parefo akanomba resource parefo ikempia fe nomba apa. A couple years ago, like maybe 2-3 years ago, 2 companies came in play. There's a company called Nexus Music and a company called Kalandanya Music Promotion. Just 2 men. The whole landscape of the industry changed. Everything from branding to my music video, like everything just looked like, oh, yes, this is what an industry is supposed to look. We're heading somewhere. And that's just like an example of if there's money in the industry, change feda monica fat okay. Talent kumwakwata but now that same money, you can only have it if there's certain structures. I've sat down with a lot of business people with money, and like, oh, so Maktu, how come our music is not on Trace and on Channel the way these Nigerians are? Tambako Felimbing and Tambako the road in the next week was at Tambiko. How come? I'm like, big man. Afaka koka investment in industry, so we are lacking ABCD, what. It's like, oh, okay. So roughly for us to start, Papa can rushing 2, 3, 4 million. Yeah, that's a good start. Okay. There's no problem. We can source for that money. But how much do you charge for a ticket at a concert? Gwangwa. How many people can come to your concert? How many people stream your music? And just a few questions, he knows he's not going to make his money back.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's not that we don't have people who can invest in our industry. We do, but we haven't made it attractive enough to look like, oh, this is actually like a lucrative business. Like I can invest my money and get it. We haven't made it that. And believe me, only us can make it. That's why I actually love it when I hear Maps has bought a Land Cruiser and is posting it on social. I'm like, showbiz. To be better of a image for industry. So okay, at least there's money here. Money is moving. Even just stuff like the Stand Big Jazz Festival. And you get our people stand toe to toe with Neo, and even maybe get the crowd moving a little more, and people really supporting. Like, it shows you that, we were quite right now. I'm repeating $250,000, 90% more than our guy. But at least Kumanat, the difference is not much.
Yeah.
Maybe, and even for us. It's important that we have those experiences, because na if we nukula manat okay chini your child was serious now man, that child is like choreograph show once. It's not like it's just walking around the stage. Child is a choreography on the show, and that's quite you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you witness that and you don't grow, or it doesn't impact your career, then there's something wrong.
Yeah.
So it's important for us to have those moments. Yeah, but it's a lot.
You ask yours?
So what would you like to see for the Zambian industry? What milestones do you think we can reach?
Obviously, like sky is the limit. Sampa's song being featured on that Marvel Black Panther movie is just testimony that the problem is not with our music or our production or our idea. It's not. The problem is how to package this same thing and sell it? How are we packaging it? How are we looking from people who are just... So I think we can do amazing things, especially now where every single day I get like 100 people, you know what I mean, wanting to do songs every single day, like hundreds of people. At some point, I realized, you know what? If you never done stuff, they can tempt your shoe back by social media. And I'd inbox like just random celebrities all over the world. And people actually replied. You know what I mean? Like I've got conversations with like Rick Ross, The Game, ABCD, Shanshin. Kumulondo da fat I nene wa kumakutukumia suna di pshabala mpepa. Ngole for checking ai pshawino. Ne chachi na checking asanga tika traction ekari. Then obviously the conversation haven't gone anywhere, but it's a small world. The whole world has become a global village. And sometimes the same way that magic happened with Sampa the Great is the same way that another Zambian artist can become big globally. Or like a Zambian song can become... The potential is limitless, but we can't do these things where you just record a song and you just hear it. Oh, this song is big in China. You know, it has to be intentional. It has to be intentional. Right now, there's a song that's big in East Africa and in China called Nakaba. Have you ever heard that song?
No.
Nakaba, chai 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 nyoko, Nakaba. No?
No, have you heard it? No. No, we gotta Google it just now.
I'm one of my set but it's a cover belt song that features dope boys. Yeah, and it's making waves. And Zambian music has always done that. Like you'd find like K Kanyelele had like 4 million YouTube views. Like when no Zambian music video had even 1 million views. It was just big in Seychelles or Mauritius. You'd find, Mampi song, Waliloela plays in Atlanta in the club, you know what I mean? Roberto's, Amarula is... But all those things, I don't think we made that happen. I think it was just one of those songs where you make an amazing song and people just love the song. But our friends don't do that. Our friends work on a project and they are not just going to throw it and just pray that it catches fire. They are going to make sure. If they are going to buy airtime on TV stations, if they are going to get people to blog about it, people even buy bots and so on and so forth to just make sure that the music is out there. Somehow, that's the world we're in. If we ever want to compete, we need to catch up with the world. We need to have all those systems and structures. People now are even doing AI algorithm whatevers to just push their agenda. Hello, if we're still on how can we make this product? You know what I mean? I want to how can we make this product now fly? Yeah.
I've got another. So I said last question. So I'm going back on it. But this is going to be like I'm bringing it down, not industry, not anything. With me, when I'm thinking about my kids entering the entertainment industry, because of what I've been through, I'm very kind of reluctant because of how much of a thick skin you have to have.
Yeah.
In your case, let's not even talk about. I know you have Ashi Faith, but let's not talk about your children. You've got siblings in the industry.
Yeah.
Do you feel like a sense of protectiveness as bro, when social media is alight with stuff that's not true about your siblings? Do you feel like you want to find whoever's saying whatever and lay hands?
So first of all, I think when I finished school, I never went to school to study music or anything because I initially loved music so much coming out of school that I really knew this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And unfortunately in Zambia, you have a few music schools, but they don't prepare you to become an artist. They prepare you to become a lecturer or a teacher for music. You know what I mean? In fact, I don't know a single artist who's successful in our industry who went to school and studied music. Everything else we learned interning somewhere, or studio, or any studio. So I used to intern at this studio called Zilile Media Inc. And they had a video studio, audio studio, and an internet cafe. So I got on social media like pretty early, at times of High Five, Tag World, MySpace, before Facebook. So even when Facebook was coming on, like I was on Facebook before like anyone had 50,000 people following them. You know what I mean? So because not only did my success happen gradual, but also when social media was growing, I was there. Ekonadi. So for 5, it's easy for you to sort of handle that, as opposed to now what I want 100,000. I would hate to be Kadochi right now. You know what I mean? So when social media really started becoming big in Zambia, it was almost like I had already become a bit thick-skinned, such that there are very few things that get to me. Yeah, you talk about my kids, yeah, I have a problem, but not... Especially like in Zambia, if you just went to any public school in Zambia, you are teased for something. You know, you're bullied for something. What do you think I was bullied for when I was young?
You tell us.
My complexion.
Oh, really?
My complexion.
Oh, man, which is currency now.
Yeah, exactly.
Today it's currency.
Yeah, it is currency.
They used to call me midnight. So all of us were teased for something. Your nose, your big forehead, what. So somehow, I think all of us are bullied. Not even physical bullying here, I'm a bullies, but all of us were teased for something. And from the jump, it's almost like you've got a bit of thick skin. It's only that now it's the frequency, especially if you are like popular or if you are a non-public figure in ABCD, it's almost like every single day there's someone saying some stuff about you. And the way we are wired is people can praise you all day. When one person says something, that's the thing that gets to you.
Trigger, yeah.
But yeah, for my kids, really, I'm really skeptical about exactly what you said. If one of them wanted to be, industry and so on and so forth, obviously there's some sort of guidance and whatever that has to be exercised. But I know how fulfilled and happy like music has made me feel. It saved my life. It's been a blessing to me, you know what I mean? So if someone is really passionate about it and feels like this is my purpose, this is what I want to do with my life, if they genuinely want that for themselves, I wouldn't deny it in anyone. You know what I mean? So
wonderful. Ra, it's been an honor to have you. We wish you all the blessings, and I think it's been special just you sharing your stories, sharing your views. So I appreciate you. We're going to give you applause. I know there are a few hands up in here, but...
Thank you so much, bro. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I was all over the place, but...
No, man, you were on point.
I think you needed to be all over the place because you kind of unlocked certain conversations that people don't want to have, and the honesty about it. I think it's very important, to actually...
Yeah, so again, to our industry heads and everybody who has an opinion about just certain topics that I've touched on. It's, again, I always put this disclaimer. This is just stuff that I solely believe based off the experiences that I have. From where I stand, this is what I think, and this is what I think we should do. If you think otherwise, great.
Terms and conditions apply. It's a wrap.